Good morning, my dear students. I hope you all are keeping well and please be safe. So, dear students, today we are going to discuss chapter 10, topic No Man is an Island. Subject MSc, class 8th. What do you mean by loneliness? Never separate yourself. Sometimes we separate ourselves from us. No man is an island. It is a very famous proverb that conveys the importance of the social status of man. Island means a piece of land surrounded by water. By the presence of water, the island is separated from other lands. This separation creates a kind of aloofness or loneliness in the minds of the people on the island. So, the proverb means that man is not born to live alone, but is born to live in the society. After the child gets birth, it has many relationships: father, mother, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, siblings, cousin, etc. Teacher. So, when the child is growing, it gets many relationship from the society. So, no one is alone in this world. So, we ourselves are thinking that we are making. So, only the famous quote is that people are lonely because they build walls instead of bridges. Bridges always unite the people, walls, it always separate the peoples. The above proverb indicates that an individual, being a member of a society, cannot live alone. He is unable to live without making relations with other people. He, directly or indirectly, depends upon other people to fulfill his needs of daily life. For example, for your school uniform, you depend upon the weaver who lives in a faraway corner of your country. You depend upon the unknown farmer who produces wheat for your daily food. Thus, we are mutually dependent upon one another. Man is also related to environment. Environment does not mean the open nature only. Generally, by environment we mean the natural surroundings around us. It is a false idea. Environment is the whole universe around us with the stars and planets, trees and plants, birds and insects, animals and fishes, the climatic conditions, and above all, the human relationship. In short, environment is everything in the universe except one's own self. The mutual relationship that exists between people imparts happiness and joy in their lives. Such an environment trains a man physically and mentally. When this mutual relationship is not found in one's life, the life is pushed into loneliness, the darkest corner of one's life. So, sometimes when we are facing many problems, when we have depressed, sometimes we need to be alone. There is lots of difference between loneliness and alone, being alone. So, loneliness is given by others. Being alone, we have chosen. We want to be alone for some times to keep our mind peace. In order to get peace, sometimes we will choose. We will come away from people. But loneliness, it's a curse. So let us now discuss whether the loneliness is a bliss or curse. We should not mix loneliness with being alone. Loneliness is quite different from being alone. When you are alone at a particular place, the situation can be utilized for a positive or creative purpose. When you spend your time alone for a particular purpose, you do not feel any psychological fear or agony in you, no disturbance. You are positively or joyfully utilizing the time for you. But loneliness is quite different from this. Loneliness brings a psychological fear and depression in the mind of an individual. As we have seen by nature, human beings need the company of others to talk to intermingle with and interact with one another. To be alone is therefore perceived as a curse and not a bliss. So, solitary confinement is considered as an appropriate punishment for the offenders of law. Loneliness can be defined as self conscious emotional isolation. In the state of isolation, a man suffers psychological and mental stress that something important is missing. Loneliness can be felt by the loss of any dear and near ones or when we loved one rejects someone. Rejects someone. In other words, a feeling that he is not loved throws a man into the world of his isolation and loneliness. So, when we lose someone whom we love so much, then we will feel loneliness without their company, without their presence, without their love. The other thing, the person one we love more, if the person rejects us, then we feel loneliness. But being alone is a positive thing where we can have the creativity and where we can concentrate oneself and we will come to know about ourselves. When a man experiences loneliness in his life, he moves towards the darkest corner of his life. He does not want to face anybody in his life. He does not want to communicate with anybody. Such a behavior may even result in chronic diseases. During the time of Second World War, when Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, Japanese soldiers captured 7 American soldiers as prisoners of war. They were later kept in separate dark cells. They were not allowed to look at the world. They were not even allowed to communicate with anybody. Later, when they were released, it was seen that they had tortured themselves physically by biting tongue, pulling out hairs, scratching the skin, etc. They were termed as the victim of loneliness. So, loneliness is such a terrible situation that no one should have, no one should choose, no one should allow in their life. We should be aware of loneliness and we have to communicate. We should leave our ego and come down and we should talk to everyone. Solitude creates a vacuum in the mind of man. Empty place. Vacuum means empty place. There one finds nobody and interact with other than himself. Strayed and disparate thoughts come into his mind. Continued and prolonged life in isolation depresses his mind. In this situation, he develops a negative personality within himself. This leads to failure in living to be human. So, if we want to be a good human being, we should not allow the loneliness to occupy in our heart and mind. In the present era, we can see old people dying in loneliness and youth committing suicide because of loneliness. In such cases, loneliness becomes one of the greatest enemies of man. Mother Teresa very often used to say that the greatest suffering of man is loneliness. According to her, it is a feeling of unwantedness or a feeling of being unloved by others. Loneliness demands compassion, love, and sympathy. We need God's grace to overcome this enemy. So, loneliness is the biggest enemy of our life. Are you moving towards darkness? The modern man is busy with his hectic means very heavy activities where he meets different people in different realms. Though he comes across with many peoples, really he is not ready to share his life with them with a sincere heart. That is why most of our talks are superfluous. Henceforth, we do not want to reveal ourselves fully to others. You doubt what the others would think about you. So, you try to conceal or hide your own self from the others. Think, are you trying to act like a snail? It wants to move, but whenever it sees somebody, it pulls itself into its shell. Though you have an earnest desire to share your thoughts and feelings with somebody, you are afraid of others. This fear pulls you back from others and draws you towards the darkest corner of your mind. There you face thousand unanswered questions. This creates a kind of confusion and chaos in your mind, pushing you to the deepest well of loneliness. As a result, you experience unhappiness and misery all the way in your search for peace and joy. In order to become happy, you desire to make friendship with many, but you realize it is an unsuccessful effort. You feel that everybody keeps distance from you because you yourself filled your mind and heart with loneliness. Though you are trying to have friendship with thousands of people, also, you feel emptiness within you. You feel that it's unsuccessful because you are filled with negative feelings, which is called loneliness. Man is never completely alone in this world. At the worst, he has company of boy, a youth, and by a grown man, the one he used to be. How to overcome loneliness? A man who suffers loneliness needs to maintain a disciplined mind directed towards positive and tranquilizing thinking. Such thoughts can make his life active again. When a man is in darkness of life, the old forgotten values and the moral principles come to his help. They guide him in the light of divine wisdom. As a result, he finds happiness. If we turn the pages of Indian history, we could be able to read about the solitary prison cells of the cellular jail in the Andaman Islands, where our freedom fighters were present. But the history states that those narrow, lonely cells failed to daunt their spirited souls. On the contrary, those isolated prisons led them to attain God realization, strengthen their vigor and enthusiasm to fight again for the motherland. They could embrace death with smile. These isolated confinements led them to devote themselves in regarding the holy scriptures. They found God as their true friend and source of joy. Following this path, we can also transform our loneliness into moments of joy and happiness. So, though we put in the situation of loneliness also, we should know to overcome from the loneliness and make it as positive choice to have a very good relationship with God in silence. Prayer comes as your help. Remember the words of the great sage in search of God. I wandered here and there, but I could not find him. At last, I turned to myself. There I found my God. When we search of God, if we go to Vaishno Devi, Velang, the world famous churches, mosque, and temples, we will not find God unless until we find within ourselves. So God is within us. When we are silent, when we do meditation, we find God who dwells in us. In these words, we realize that man is unable to find joy and peace, fulfillment, and satisfaction in his scientific achievements, but needs somebody to hear and listen to him. He believes that somebody would truly come in, with whom he would be able to share his feelings, and he turns to God in silence, believing that God is the only one in whom he can open his pained heart fearlessly. Thus, through prayer, one can overcome his great enemy, loneliness. In prayer, we can friendly talks with God. We try to live with Him. As a result, you become happy and friendly with others. On the contrary, alienation from God alienates you from yourself and from others too. So, take the name of God and pray for His blessings. So, my dear students, what I want to tell you from this chapter is always be happy and makes others also happy. So, you have got the chance to learn moral science, all these moral values, what is positive, what is negative, how to listen your conscience, all these things. So, you want to be happy. So, what are the way to get happy? There are there is the difference between pleasure and happiness. When you do sacrifice for others, you get happiness. When you fulfill your own desire, you get pleasure. So, always pleasure, happy is better than pleasure. So, choose always to be happy and makes others also happy. Thank you. Have a nice day.